If all goes well, the ceasefire between the State of Israel and Hamas will go into effect tomorrow. I'm here to talk about the ceasefire, but also about the Palestinian people, especially in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, and to look at what our responsibility is as global citizens who care about human life in terms of Palestinian rights. So let's talk about it a little. Now, if you have followed my playlist on Palestine, you might have noticed that I have not recorded or opined about Gaza and Palestine for the last 2 or 3 months. And there were quite a few reasons for that, but two important reasons for that were, one, the emotional toll that it took to constantly keep talking about the atrocities being committed in Gaza by the Israeli armed forces, and seeing the indifference from the powerful corners of the world, Europe and United States. And it became harder and harder to keep talking about it, even though I felt impelled to speak for the Palestinian people. And the other reason was pragmatic, maybe a bit cowardly on my part, and that was that when you delve into the issues of Palestinian rights, you get attacked, you get labeled, you get ostracized, and if you are trying to look for employment in United States, what you say in public, even though I can assure you and anyone else who watches every single video on this channel about Palestine that I've always been fair and balanced in my approach, and I've never offered generalizations, but still people can label you. So these were two main reasons for which I took a pause. Then a few days ago, I posted a short video seeking guidance from my viewers as to what is it that they would like to see this year. And one of the suggestions that came from someone I deeply, deeply respect was that I should continue posting my opinions about what's going on in Palestine, especially in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, because in their view, it is important to have views from someone such as me in opposition to the mainstream narratives built by the powerful media in the United States and Europe. So that's why I am picking up this thread again. And I will try to offer my views about the news about the Palestinian people and their interactions and their oppression by the Israeli armed forces as and when I find a piece of news or coverage that I feel could need some amplification and some further clarifications. So this video is part of that commitment. So let's talk about the ceasefire, which we hope will go into effect tomorrow. Now, please keep in mind that last Wednesday, when the ceasefire deal was announced, on that day, 122 Palestinians, including 33 children, were still killed by Israeli bombardments. And this trend is likely to continue, and I'll touch on it in a moment. Now, overall, in this conflict, we already know that Hamas committed atrocities, killed more than 1,100 Israeli citizens, and took about 200 of them hostage. That is out in the open. And of course, I've always condemned any terroristic activities against civilians anywhere in the world, but also in Israel. So far, 46,899 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli armed forces in this conflict, and over 110,000 have been wounded. Also, pretty much 90% of Gaza's infrastructure has been destroyed. So what we are looking at is a population whose numbers have been killed and a population who has been displaced and starved right in front of our eyes. And that while the ceasefire deal was being made, Israel was still bombing Gaza, killing 122 people, including 33 children. These are United Nations figures as reported by Al Jazeera. Now, I have no doubt that this ceasefire will bring some relief to the Palestinians in Gaza, and also, of course, relief to families whose relatives were held hostage and who will be released, and that's a positive outcome. But will it end the suffering of Palestinian people? That's the question that no one is addressing in the media or at the government levels in the United States and elsewhere, because they are seeing this ceasefire as the culminating achievement, right? What is the nature of suffering of Palestinian people? Not just this war and destruction of their infrastructure. The suffering is caused by a permanent occupation. Now, what the Israelis expect, the right-wing Israelis, and the United States general public and the media, their expectations of the Palestinians is that they should accept their fate as an occupied people, which is counter to human nature and counter to the mythologies of resistance that America has perpetuated through their movies, novels, and storytelling. Find me one American story on TV or in film or in print where the heroes are the ones who accept the occupiers and do not fight back. But when it comes to the Palestinian people, the United States, its media, they want to flip the same narrative because they want the Palestinians to accept their fate. Now, Gaza was the world's largest open-air prison. There is no doubt about it. You can look at the structure of it, how it is monitored and controlled, with Israel having the self-declared right to bomb the urban areas of Gaza anytime they feel threatened. Is the ceasefire likely to change that? I don't think so. Meanwhile, what we are not sure is as to what Netanyahu has given to the religious Zionists who form the coalition partners of his government. They, remember, were opposed to the ceasefire and a hostage deal. And they also wanted concessions if they agreed to the ceasefire to further develop settlements in the West Bank. Now, has Netanyahu given them that? Does that mean that there'll be more settlement activity in the West Bank? And if that is the case, how does that solve the problems of the occupation, and how does that end the suffering of the Palestinian people? Now, don't get me wrong, right? This makes me sad, of course, and also angry, because it is injustice at a colossal scale. But what makes me sad is the indifference and the enabling of the right-wing Israeli politicians and government by the United States, and the silence of the mainstream media, even when they report some atrocities being committed by the IDF or Israeli. I don't call them defense forces anymore. It's the Israeli army it's an afterthought, and it's attributed to Hamas says, or Egyptian news agency says, as if that is going to diminish the credibility of the reports. So overall, I'm grateful and hopeful that this will bring a pause to the destruction of Gaza, which is pretty much already destroyed, and maybe the world relief agencies will be able to rush in and give the aid that was slowed down and often stopped by the Israeli armed forces in Gaza, and give some respite to the suffering people of Palestine. But we should not look at this fragile ceasefire as the end of Palestinian suffering or as a solution. We should look at it as a beginning point towards a two-state solution, towards the Palestinian right to self-determination. Now, I should end this video here, but Mr. Trump is coming into office in about 3 days. And, Israeli right wing thinks that they can make Trump into their instrument, just as, Biden played along. I don't think so that's going to happen. Yes, Trump has already declared that he wouldn't mind if the Israelis went back in and bombed Gaza again. He has appointed someone as the ambassador to the state of Israel, a person who denies that Palestinian people exist. But there is one thing, in my opinion, that the Israeli right wing is misreading. They think that they can mislead Trump and get whatever they want from him. But there is one thing that they should be cautious about, and that is if they slight Trump in any way, then Trump is a very vindictive person, right? And as the President of the United States, he has immense power. So maybe, you never know, he might surprise us. I have no hope from the West or from United States. These are countries who have shown us, United Kingdom, France, United States, that they are okay with the destruction of the Palestinian people. Germany, other than Ireland, Norway, and Spain, right, who openly declared their opposition to the annihilation of Palestinian people, these other countries have been enablers. So I'm hopeful that change will come. And I do hope and pray that it does. But just remember, the fight is not over. If you are in support of Palestinian rights, and you should be if you are a decent human being, we must remain vigilant, we must remain united, and we must constantly voice our opinions against the oppression and destruction of the Palestinian people. Now, we do that with love and with a clear understanding that the state of Israel has a right to exist, and it has a right to thrive and live in peace with its neighbors. And there is no denying that fact, at least on my part, but that the state of Israel does not have the right to destroy a people and treat them as less than human. And that's what we should constantly remember. That's all on this day. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe. And any opinions that you would like to share, be kind. Please feel free to post them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I will try to at least have an opinion piece or two, if not every week, at least every other week, or at least once a month, about Palestine and the Palestinian people. Thank you so much. Stay safe, take care, and as always, peace and love.